As mentioned in the video last week, I've decided for a bit of fun to do a final championship predictions video, which fingers crossed doesn't make me look like a right idiot, but we shall wait and see. Before I get started, as you guys know, I'm trying to get 5k subscribers in the near future. We're still some way away yet, so if you think 58% of people last time I checked who watch my content are not subscribed, so if you think I've earned a subscription from you, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and as long as you're respectful about it, go in the comments below and see where it takes you. Thanks very much for all the support. It is much appreciated, of course. Now, very quickly, before I start with the predictions, I didn't want to do every single position in the league. So all I'm doing is who's going down to League One, what the top six is going to be, and where Sunderland are going to finish. Just it saves a bit of time. And let's be honest, that's the bits that people probably are really interested in, top six especially. So without being said, let's get right to it. So, bottom three. As you guys know, Wigan have obviously, since the video I did last week, Wigan have had a points deduction. They've had 3 points deducted for them. And Reading, although I haven't included Reading in this, Reading, obviously, if they have a points deduction, that could change my opinion that Reading could get relegated. If they don't get a points deduction, I imagine Reading will be okay. And so basically for the relegation picture, I've included the bottom 5, which is Rotherham on 40 points, Cardiff on 39, Huddersfield on 36, I think, Blackpool on 35, and Wigan on 31. So let's get right to it. So, straight away, bottom of the table, Wigan, obviously. Everyone knows I'm not the biggest fan of Wigan, especially with their fans on social media. But having said, most of them, some have been classed with me, to be fair. But nevertheless, what's happened has been a disgrace, and it shouldn't ever have been allowed to happen. And I just think the morale will be quite low at Wigan at the minute. I think apparently there was a report somewhere that they've stayed well away from the training ground until they've got paid, which is absolutely fair enough. And if you look at Wigan's fixtures, it's a bit mixed, but they've obviously got QPR at home, Sheffield United away, Swansea at home, Blackpool and Stoke away, Millwall at home, followed by 2 final games, Reading away and Rotherham at home. Yeah, I think they're 8 points adrift at the moment as it is. And I just think that Wigan would have to have a miraculous run to keep themselves in the championship at this point. But you never know, stranger things have happened. 23rd, I have gone with Blackpool. Again, Blackpool's fixtures, when you look at, I'll go through them. Preston away, which is a derby game, anything could happen there. Cardiff at home, Luton away, Wigan at home, and then 3 of their last 4 aren't very good if you want to be staying up. West Brom at home, then a trip to Birmingham, the final home game against Millwall before a final day trip to Norwich. Blackpool's a funny one because I don't know what it is. I just think Blackpool, they've been through the mill, haven't they? Neil Critchley obviously chased money at Aston Villa since going to Cardiff and then getting sacked. Michael Appleton, who I wasn't particularly convinced with as a manager, and especially not in the Championship, has since been sacked, and Mick McCarthy's took over. Now, McCarthy, it's a funny one, really, because I think this is a squad that is probably good for League One. Whether it's good enough for the Championship, Blackpool fans, are there any of you watching? Tell me if I'm missing anything. But Blackpool, I just don't think will be strong enough, especially going forward. But you never know. They got a 6-1 win against QPR. And had they not followed that up with a 4-1 defeat to Coventry, albeit Victor Gyökeres should have got sent off, state of officials yet again, being rubbish as ever. But, if they got something against Coventry, that might have swayed my opinion. But you never know. If they beat Preston and then beat Cardiff, beat Wigan and all that, and maybe beat Birmingham, then they've got a chance. We'll wait and see with that one. But so far, Blackpool 23rd. Now, the third place team is one that's probably going to be shocking shocking a few people. I've gone for not Cardiff, not Huddersfield, but Rotherham. And I wouldn't have gone for Rotherham until I saw what their fixtures were like. Now, I will stress, Rotherham against Cardiff has yet to be rearranged. That's got to be readjusted at some point into the calendar. But they've got Cardiff at home to be rearranged, and they've got trips to Hull and Bristol City, and then go to Wigan on the final day. Now, those are the fixtures that realistically could be the fixtures that save them, if anything. They've got some good players, Jordan Hugo being one of them, Ogbenny being another one. But I just think when you look at the other fixtures they've got, it's not great. So in April, I think 5 of their fixtures in April are West Brom at home, Norwich away, Luton at home, Burnley at home, Borough at home. Granted, Rotherham, I didn't know this, but 4 out of those games, I believe, are at the New York Stadium. And that might give them a chance. Rotherham's home form is actually pretty good when you compare to teams down there. But I just think those fixtures, I think it's a lot to ask to get something off Burnley, Luton, Middlesbrough, Norwich, and West Brom. I could see them maybe sneaking a surprise win or two in there. Whether it's enough to keep them up, I don't know. So Rotherham fans will obviously hope I'm wrong because they've had an up and down sequence repeatedly before Paul Warne left. Obviously not been good enough for the Championship, but obviously far too good for League One. So for their sake, fingers crossed I'm wrong. But so to recap, my bottom three are Wigan in 24th, Blackpool in 23rd, and Rotherham in 22nd. I'll briefly touch on Cardiff and Huddersfield. Cardiff's fixtures in the main are actually pretty good. There's obviously a couple of nasty ones in there, but they've obviously got Swansea at home, which is a derby. Anything can happen there. Blackpool away, huge game there. Sunderland at home, which bear in mind by that point we're probably going to be mid-table fodder with nothing to play for really. Not to the level that Cardiff have something to play for, or something at stake rather. But they've obviously got Sheffield United away, Watford away, and Burnley away on the last day. But sandwiched in between those, they've got Stoke at home and Huddersfield at home. And I just feel like the squad they've got and the fixtures they've got will do enough to save them. Obviously, Huddersfield's another story altogether. They got a fantastic win at Millwall, which, by the way, is no mean feat. We barely struggled to get a point there. And Millwall, I think, have got something like the third or fourth best home record in the Championship. So don't underestimate the power of that result. That's funny. And obviously, if you look at their fixture, I mean, their next couple of fixtures aren't great. Middlesbrough and Watford are two of them, Blackburn being another one. But I've just got a feeling after them, they've got Swansea and Sunderland and Cardiff all away, and then host Sheffield United and Reading in the last weeks of the season. Now, I wouldn't be shocked if Huddersfield got relegated, but Neil Warnock is the big thing that I think gives them a chance. I think he's probably the best manager out of everyone that's down the bottom. And I've just got a feeling in these couple of games, I think Blackburn at home, I can see them beaten. Watford away, maybe get something. I could see them getting something against us, actually. I just have a feeling Huddersfield are going to scrape out of it. But, again, I could be totally wrong there. And now for the bit that people probably really are most interested in, the top six. So, let's get it out of the way. Sixth place, Norwich. I know Norwich fans, I listen to Talk Norwich City and watch it a lot. Go and subscribe, fantastic channel. Easily my favourite non-Sunderland channel when it comes to football stuff. But Norwich, I would say, their fixtures, Sheffield United at home, Blackburn away, Rotherham at home, Borough away, Cardiff away, Swansea at home, West Brom away, and Blackpool at home. So if you look at the home fixtures, Sheffield United, I do believe they are capable of getting a good result against. And bearing in mind, since David Wagner took over, not including the Blackburn FA Cup third round game in January, since David Wagner took over, there's only two teams that have won at Carrow Road. Burnley, top of the league, fair enough. Maybe not 3-0, fair enough, but like Burnley are top of the league. And obviously Sunderland. After Sheffield United, on paper, they've got Rotherham, Swansea and Blackpool at home. And those three are games they have to be winning, really, if they're wanting to be into the top six. Sheffield United, I think they're capable of getting something against. Arguably should have beaten them at Bramall Lane. They were 2-0 up and before drawing 2-2. Blackburn away, again, I think Blackburn are pretty inconsistent for me. I know they've had a good run recently, but I just think they're too hit and miss to get into the top six. And I think Norwich's squad on paper is better. Obviously, Borough away is going to be tricky, but you've got QPR away, who I think they're capable of beating, and West Brom away, which I wouldn't be shocked if they got a result against. I know that Chris and Phoebe, both Norwich fans, Chris in particular, Talk Norwich City, some of them don't believe they will get in the top six, whereas I disagree with that. I think they've got the team to get into the top six. But there you have it. I'll quickly mention the two teams that I've considered to not go in the playoffs who are in the playoffs currently. Millwall and Blackburn. Millwall, I think, again, we'll go through their fixtures very, very quickly. Millwall have got a trip to West Brom, followed by a home game against Luton, two very tough games straight away. Hull away, then home games against Preston and Birmingham, followed by trips to Blackpool and Wigan, or Wigan and Blackpool rather in order, and then a home game against Blackburn. While Blackburn have got Birmingham away, a home game against Norwich, a trip to Huddersfield, followed by home games against Hull and Coventry, a trip to Preston, home to Burnley, and then Luton before final day trip to Millwall. I just think both these teams, Blackburn I think are too hit and miss. I think I'm just judging it off the two games I've watched Sunderland play against them. I think they are one of the weakest teams I've seen us play. But nevertheless, they're there for a reason. I wouldn't be shocked if Blackburn's fixtures are pretty decent. But obviously in there you've got Burnley, you've got Millwall, you've got Norwich, Coventry are no mugs. I just think Blackburn will falter a bit, and I think they'll lose a couple of games in there that you won't expect them to lose, like Huddersfield away potentially. And then Millwall, I think when you look at their games, I think ultimately out of the remaining games, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So half their games left are away. I know that's the same with everybody. But Millwall's away form is what I think costs them. And I think their next 2 games are huge. Now, Millwall, I wouldn't be shocked if they did finish in the top 6, but I don't think they will because I just think they're solid. They're very solid, but I just don't think they'll do enough. So, 5th place is probably the one that's going to shock people the most. Victor Gyökeres is the big reason behind this, and I think Coventry. Now, Millwall, Blackburn, and Coventry have all got a similar run-in, where I think that there's some not so great fixtures in there, or harder fixtures on paper, but they've got some decent ones. However, Coventry's run-in isn't too bad, and they've got, for me, easily one of the best strikers in the Championship in Victor Gyökeres. Coventry's run is Swansea away, Watford at home, QPR away, Blackburn at home. Then you've got Reading and Birmingham at home, followed by a final day trip to Middlesbrough. Now, if you look at Borough, Watford, and possibly Blackburn, they're tricky fixtures. But I think Coventry are a very, very good, solid team, and going forward, have one of the best goal scorers in the league. Obviously, if Gyökeres gets injured or is unavailable for whatever reason for the run-in in any of the games, then obviously that changes things. But as of right now, I think Coventry have an outside chance. I think it might have been the not the top 20 podcast who described Coventry as the best of as the outsiders, the best chance to get into the top 6. And I've just got a funny feeling about Coventry. And Mark Robbins, who I wanted someone to look at when Alex Neil left, even though it's never going to happen probably, is done a great job there with limited resources. So I've just got a feeling Coventry's going to sneak in there. 4th place, Luton. To be honest, until last week's draw at Sunderland, I do think they probably could have been potentially catching Sheffield United. But now I don't think that is as likely. I think they've got 7 points gap with Sheffield United having a game in hand, or 6 points, I can't remember what it is. But I think that's a big ask to overturn at this point. But nevertheless, they've got Watford at home, which is a huge game for them, obviously. Millwall away. I think that's Blackpool away. No, sorry, Blackpool at home. Trips to Rotherham and Reading before home game against Borough. Trip to Blackburn and at home to Hull on the final day. Steady, solid. I still think to an extent Luton are overachieving, but you've also got to give them credit. They're there for a reason and they deserve to be there. And in hindsight, the point against them, even though I said last week it's not the end of the world, it's actually not a bad point when you look at it that way, especially with their away record. So Luton are going to be nice and solid in 4th. Right, 3rd and 2nd. Well, let's just get out of the way. Burnley's going to win the league at a canter, so there's no point going through their fixtures. All I'll do is I hope they lose their next game. Be typical Sunderland to go there and win when nobody expects it. But Burnley's going to win the league. They'd have to be catastrophically bad to not win the league at this point. But right, 3rd. I know Casey's going to love this. Middlesbrough are going to finish 3rd for me. Part of me, in a way, would like to see Borough get 2nd just because of how much they've risen up the table. Obviously Borough don't like Sunderland. I don't really care about Middlesbrough that much. But when you look at Borough's run-in, they've probably got a slightly harder run-in on paper with a game less than Sheffield United. Huddersfield away, Burnley at home, Bristol City away. Bristol City underrated, actually. That's a pretty tricky fixture. Norwich at home, Hull at home, Luton and Rotherham away, followed by Coventry at home. Straight away, Burnley, Norwich, Luton, maybe Coventry, Bristol City, Hull and all. There's some tricky fixtures in there for Middlesbrough. And I think Borough, in order to get 2nd, need to be consistently at almost perfect level to get 2nd, whereas Sheffield United have that bit of wiggle room. But Michael Carrick, make no mistake, has done an incredible job since he's gone there. And I wouldn't bet against his side winning the playoffs and going up that way. Because it tends to be the team who's got the most momentum going into it ends up winning the playoffs. And Borough, at the minute, probably have the best momentum. So Sheffield United, obviously, to get 2nd. So their fixtures are Norwich away, Wigan at home, Burnley away, Cardiff and Bristol City, and West Brom and Preston at home. Obviously, we've got the FA Cup semi-final against Man City, followed by trips to Huddersfield and Birmingham. Sheffield United have got the game in hand, and they've got probably a slightly kind of run-in when you've got Wigan, Cardiff, Preston, Huddersfield, Birmingham. They've got the fixtures, really, and they've got the wiggle room with the game in hand. So there you go. So to recap, top 6, 6th Norwich, 5th Coventry, 4th Luton, 3rd Middlesbrough, 2nd Sheffield United, and top, of course, Sunderland, no Burnley. So to recap, Wigan, Blackpool and Rotherham are predicted to go down to League One. Norwich, Coventry, Luton and Middlesbrough to make the playoffs, and obviously the top 2, Burnley and Sheffield United, to stay as they are. If I had to very quickly pick who I think is going to win the playoffs, I said Norwich for quite some time. I'm not sure. I think it's either going to be Norwich or Middlesbrough. I don't know what it is. I think Norwich, if they get a good bit of rhythm going, they've got something there to make sure they go up. but I've got a suspicion I might just edge Borough. But if that is the playoffs, that's a pretty decent set of playoff games there. And the final thing before I wrap this video up, where are Sunderland going to finish? 12th. I just think Sunderland, we've got the season now is kind of not petering out so much because I still think I still want to try and secure a top half finish. And I think if Sunderland get 12th or above, I'd be happy with that personally. For a first season back in the Championship after 4 years in League One, I don't think that's bad at all. It just means for me next season, the expectation's got to be the playoffs and top 6. You can get offended by that all you want, but I don't think that's deluded or unrealistic. I think it's pretty fair. I think some fans want to go for top 2. Some think that the playoffs is a bit disrespectful. It depends which Sunderland fan you ask. But for me, for this season, I think we'll finish 12th. I said 14th at the start of the season, so you never know. I could be bang on with that. But yeah, where we are now, I would have definitely taken in July. And the way I look at it is, the other 2 teams that came up with us, Wigan and Rotherham, I wouldn't swap with either of them. They'd want to be where we are. But there you go. So 12th for Sunderland. There you go. Hope you guys enjoy my predictions. Let me know in the comments below respectfully what you think is going to happen. Who's going to go down to League One? Who's going to come up with the Championship? And as a bit of fun, who's going to come up from League One? I'll very quickly say it. Sheffield Wednesday will win the league. I've got a suspicion I might just edge Plymouth to get second because Ipswich should come up with the squad they've got, but Plymouth's running is very, very kind. The only thing that might stop them is how are they going to deal with Ipswich potentially chasing them. And then I would say, and I think maybe someone like Bolton, maybe Derby or Ipswich to come up through the playoffs. So I've kind of copped out a bit there. But anyway, guys, I'll love you and leave you to it. Thanks very much for watching. Remember, 58% of people that watch aren't subscribed on the analytics. So if you think I've earned a sub from you, like, comment, and subscribe. That would mean a lot to me to try and get to 5K. See you guys later, and take care. See you next Friday, where hopefully we don't get too tonked by Burnley. Love yous all.